Japanese index is down close to around 3%. It's recovered, though, from the initial cut of around 4% odd.
Both Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump would meet at the front lawns of the Hyderabad House for detailed bilateral conversations.
The levels to watch: 11,813 on the Nifty and 30,428 on the Bank Nifty. Yesterday's low, if the gap up gets sold into, that's something that you'll watch out for.
This is going to be very transitory because, I mean, China already is getting back to work.
Markets have opened in the green, so that's very welcome.
We are working out a scheme by which certain incentives can be given to the gas power producers.
FPIs from Mauritius will continue to be eligible for FPI registration with increased monitoring as is part of the FATF norms.
I'm very encouraged by even what OECD is trying to get done, which is to come up with some consistent rules that are worldwide rules.
The index is fluctuating between green and red.
I find that certain of our companies have got supply chain arrangements that are being affected by this.
This is going to be a significant factor for the world economy.
Expanded our defense cooperation with agreements for India to purchase more than $3 billion of advanced American military equipment.
The market is down about 6.5 odd points.
Okay, well, the market's taken a bit of a U-turn. Just in that, in the last 5 minutes, there's one more attempt of recovery. And what's surprising today is that today it looks like, the global markets are quite okay. Still, the market is sulking quite a bit. Yes, Europe is flat with negative bias, but Dow futures still maintaining good gains. Asia has done well still. The Indian market at day's low, just that the sentiment perhaps just a bit too weak right now and all rallies getting sold into. Let's see what the last hour brings for us. I got Surbhi with me for Closing Bell. Surbhi, hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Anuj. Yes, I completely take your point because Asia was all right. European markets are flat to mildly negative. I'm looking at the declines. I mean, in the morning, it looked like maybe the Bank Nifty wants to stage a bit of a recovery. That's not worked. Reliance has been a big drag. And now we're sitting at the doorsteps of 11,800. So, what's your read-through on the fact that we haven't seen any sort of a pullback, despite yesterday?
There's still a crucial last hour coming up, Surbhi. And my sense is that, if you see the Dow futures, because this is global in nature, this decline that you're seeing, they still maintain a decent uptick of about... okay, actually that's come off quite a bit from the high point. So it was about 260 a while back. It's only 115 now, so that's the problem. So I guess, it's just that the texture of the market has changed. It's changed from buy on dips to sell on rally. Now, we are very close to a 200-day moving average. We did not break 200-day moving average even on the budget day. So that way, I think that is still a relevant number, 11,700 thereabout. So, the call that you need to take is it too early to buy, too late to sell? That's the call that you need to take. But the mid-cap action, in fact, it started rather well today. The mid-cap index at one point, I think, was up 1%. And the way that's declined, I think, not giving you a good comforting sign. But let's see, this is the zone. If the market has to bounce, this is a zone. Otherwise, we're looking at a problem.
Yeah, and specific stocks, obviously, for their own reasons. Look at India Cement, 12.5% higher. But then there are separate reasons for some of these stocks moving higher. We will be discussing them and several others. Let's get started. This is what's lined up for you on Closing Bell today. The market has been very volatile in today's trading action. Benchmark indices are now again back fighting at the day's low. The mid-cap space is now underperforming the frontliners. Investors continue to assess the economic impact of the coronavirus contagion. We'll discuss all of the day's market trends with the fundamental experts, SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com, market expert Anand Tandon, and Paras Adanwala of Capital Portfolio Advisors. Now, how should investors approach all this volatility and this sell-off induced by the virus fears? Today, we get you a view from Ratnesh Kumar, MD and CEO of Bobcaps. He'll join us a little later on the show. And of course, along with all of that, lots of trading calls coming your way with Mitesh Thakkar and Prakash Kaba.
Okay, how should you position yourself in this last hour of trade? We have Mitesh and Prakash now joining us for closing calls. Good afternoon. Mitesh, it's been another day of weakness for the index, even though we are once again bouncing back a bit from the low point. Your thoughts on how to approach trade now and your stock calls?
Yeah, good afternoon. I think the market is not giving any kind of directional bias today, but the overall structure still remains on the weak side. So I would believe that there is still a chance of a breakdown happening. I talked in the morning that 11,880, 990 sorry, 888.90 remains the preferred selling area. So we had a high of around 11,883. Maintain a short bias, now trail your stop loss to about 11,925, and I think on the downside, good chance that we will test the 200 average, which is around 11,665, 670 again very soon. If you want to take a fresh shot, wait for today's high or area around that on a pullback to initiate fresh short position on the index. And on stock side, I have a sell on Ultratech with a stop at 4,400 for targets of 4,250, and Adani Ports is a sell with a stop at 362 for targets of 342.
Okay, those are some of the calls that Mitesh is working with. Let's bring in Prakash Gaba into the conversation as well. Prakash, good afternoon. Down day, and it seems that the sluggishness is even continuing. Last 1 hour, would you play more on the downside? What's the call on the index?
Actually, I would not play the long or short the last 1 hour, because the market now is range bound. Structurally, it is still weak. Downside to 11,750 is still open. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But I would not play now at this point of time because we have an hour. I need to see my setup. So far, the setup is not there. So I'll avoid Nifty and Bank Nifty. I have two stocks, one long, one short. Havels look good to me. Very good chance. We can see a climb to 655 zones, stop below 640. And I like L&T for a shorting. I think it can see a slide to 1210 zones, stop about 1252.
Remarkable market, by the way. Just look at the last 10 minutes. The Nifty has recovered 40 points, no less, in the last 10 minutes of trade. There it is, as you can see on the screen. We had broken 11,800. It looked like we broke yesterday's low, perhaps taken out all the weak hands, and now once again the market's climbing back a bit, 11,827. So all over the place, really, this market. ICICI Bank is the one which is once again fighting for the bulls, like it did in the morning. If you see the intraday chart on ICICI Bank, the last few minutes, there's some buying. There you can see it. In the morning also, that one looked good. Then that decline in line with the market, and now there's some buying which is happening on that stock. SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com and market expert Anand Tandon now join us. Good afternoon. Mr. Tulsian, a stock that we normally don't talk about much, Navin Fluorine. Have you tracked it? Any thoughts on the stock? Up 20% today.
Sanuj, I do track the stock, and if you take their business model, that is one of the division of SRF also, the chemical or the fluorine or the gas, refrigerant gas which we call it, and that is seen to be doing quite well. In fact, the numbers seem coming quite good, and if you take a call on the business segment, because of the summer approaching and the good season seen ahead for the air conditioners, this company is also seen doing quite well. And yes, you do see this kind of news flows, when this which we have seen today in the case of the company, that gives us shares to move up by this 20% circuit. But one may not enter into the current level, but yes, this is a good stock to look into.
Okay, it's a $410 million contract that Navin Fluorine has entered into, and it's with a global company. It's for a 7-year duration. It's a new product that they haven't entered into before, and that's what's gotten the market perhaps so very excited. Let's also bring in Anand into the conversation. Anand, good afternoon. I want to get your thoughts on some of the cement names. Of course, Shree is excited with the index inclusion. And the move on India Cements is nothing short of breathtaking today, 13% higher. How would you look at some of these, mid to large size cement players?
Well, I think it all depends on whether the volume picks up. By and large, the realizations have been reasonable. If the volume begins to pick up, and of course, Shree in the morning on your channel was indicating that they are seeing demand pick up and they hope to get 7-8% growth. A 7-8% growth in volume is very robust for the cement industry. So if it were to come through, I think you're going to see good times ahead for the sector as a whole. And obviously companies which are better positioned regionally, where there is less capacity that has come up, can perhaps do better. But by and large, the whole question is that it has flattered to deceive for a long time now. The volumes or the price tend to either come off during the season, or you have too much of capacity addition. So we really have to see if infrastructure actually is providing the much needed boost.
Okay, fair enough. Anand, good afternoon. I wanted your thoughts on Indigo. That's a stock which actually now is seeing quite a bit of short covering after that sharp downtake. What would be your call on the stock?
Well, Anuj, I don't really have a call much on the stock. Frankly, from a point of view of the industry today, that's the only play left. Because as I said earlier as well on your channel, that Spice is having constraints in terms of capacity, and therefore the only place where you can actually assume that there can be growth will be Indigo. Now, to a large extent, the problem is they are not able to raise the prices of the seats, and therefore it becomes a play on the fuel. So if you assume fuel continues to remain low, then the performance can be quite good. But by and large, the performance comes because of the contracts they get into on dealing on the airlines, on buying planes rather than selling seats. And that's something that I'm not particularly comfortable with. For somebody wanting to invest in the sector, I think that remains, as I said, the only play.
Okay, that's Interglobe Aviation. The other stock on the radar, of course, is going to be SBI. The SBI Cards IPO is just around the corner. Mr. Tulsian, what do you make of SBI Cards, the sort of numbers that are being spoken about as of now, and what's the call on the parent itself now?
Surabhi, in fact, I have been keeping extremely positive view on this SBI card IPO coming in when I recommended the stock SBI. And if you take a call now, I won't be surprised to see the SBI card also having a market cap of closer to 1 lakh crore. And if the SBI parent company having a market cap of about 3 lakh crore, and if you see their two subsidiaries in which they are holding, even after the IPO, about 56 to 58%. In SBI Life, they have 56%. Same thing will happen in SBI Card. They'll eventually be holding about 56-57% stake. So if you have these two companies where the consolidation happens, that is extremely quite positive. Come on their AMCs, which is not listed. As such, the AMC has become the number one in the top slot, above HDFC and if HDFC Mutual Fund. And if you take a call on their working, the chairman has been very categorical in saying that there won't be any kind of slippages more going forward. And the things are seen to be showing quite improvement on the IBC front also. We may see again in this Q4 of the Jindal of the Bhushan Power resolution. So if a company, if a bank like SBI can show a slippages of just 8,000 crore per quarter, that gives quite a lot comforting. And as I said, that if you have these two subsidiaries with more than 50% stake with each one at 1 lakh crore and such a good valuation, and if you take a call on the corporate lending banks, you have referred a while back, you have all been discussing about ICICI Bank, and we have been keeping extremely positive on the corporate lender. In fact, one should keep a pause on buying HDFC Bank and Kotak Bank, though we have been giving the buy call on HDFC Bank, but extremely positive on all the corporate lenders like Axis Bank, ICICI Bank and SBI. And SBI definitely falls on top of all these three, because once the stock gets listed after maybe 10 days or so, then you will be seeing the good value accretion scene happening. And all along post this Q3 numbers, we have seen the SBI in an accumulation, and I won't be surprised. We have given a target of 375 by end of May, and we stick to that target of 375 for SBI.
Okay, Mr. Tulsian, what have you made of this cement rally and India Cement in particular?
See, Anuj, we have been by and large general, quite positive on the cement stocks, and that is what we have been umpteen number of times we have given the buy call on many cement stocks. Maybe JK Cement last year we gave a buy call at 700, now moved to a level of 1400. But coming specifically on India Cement, what I have been gathered from the street, that Radhakishan Damani, who is already holding about 4% plus stake, he is seen increasing the stake in the company. And I think it can only be in isolation if the India Cement has moved, while the other cement stocks have not shown that kind of rally. So I can, going by the street news or maybe street rumor, because Radhakishan Damani is already holding about 4.5% stake in the company, if I'm not wrong, going by the shareholding pattern. It is seen further raising the stake in the company. So that could only be the reason for a rise in the India Cement, because as such EV per ton is seen to be quite low. But overall you have at least for next 4 months, because summer is still not yet started. Summer remains for 3 to 4 months in the country, and you have a good tailwind for the cement sector going forward in terms of the volume growth, in terms of the pricing power, and both will be seen giving them operating leverage because of the higher capacity utilization. So we are keeping extremely positive, but specifically on India Cement rally, I can only attribute to this to maybe to the buying by this HNI raising his stake in the company.
All right, gentlemen, stay on. We'll take a break and we'll come back with Ratnesh Kumar, MD and CEO of Bobcaps on the other side.